three teacher stories that are all scary but true. The vast majority of teachers are good, decent, nice people, but unfortunately in every group there are a few bad apples. These stories are true and happen to real people.
I was stalked by my teacher. When I was in high school, one of my teachers stalked me for a year. He was in his late 60s. He would show up at the fast food joint where I worked and wait all day for me to come in. He used to wait for me outside work and follow me when I was driving home. He even followed me into the grocery store. It was so creepy. I saw him every single day for months. He didn't even try to hide the fact that he was stalking me. I had to drive home by a different route every day to avoid him. One day, he walked up to my little sister and started talking to her. I flipped out and called my dad to tell him what was happening. My dad came and threatened to kill the teacher if he ever came near either of us again. The teacher never did come back, but for a long time I kept his name, description, telephone number, and license plate number taped to my refrigerator just in case I ever went missing, so the police would know where to look.
The teacher who snapped. A group of 14-year-old students in the UK decided to play a prank on their science teacher. They smuggled a video camera into the classroom and planned to make the teacher lose his temper so they could catch it on camera. The students started misbehaving, shouting abuse at the teacher and calling him names. They never predicted what would happen next. When one boy told him to F ### off, the teacher suddenly snapped. He picked up a dumbbell and began hitting one boy over the head with it, shouting, "Die! Die! Die!" CCTV footage showed terrified students fleeing from the enraged teacher. The boy was severely injured, but he didn't die and later recovered. After a trial, the teacher was sentenced to community service and banned from ever teaching again.
Substitute stalker. I was stalked by a substitute teacher in high school. He became the substitute teacher in all of my classes whenever a teacher was absent, which oddly enough started happening quite frequently. His eyes lit up when he first saw me. Somehow he learned my schedule and started to wait outside my classroom to meet me. He would show up at sports practice and hide behind trees. He would show up at home and away games. He even knew my birthday. One day I was sitting on a windowsill in a third-floor classroom, and he asked me out on a date. He inched closer and closer, waiting for my answer. I was afraid he was going to push me out the window, so I said yes. I told my friends about him and they witnessed his strange behavior. My birthday was on a Friday. It was raining and I was pulling out of my parking spot to take my friend home. The teacher appeared out of nowhere. He walked around my car twice, knocked on the window and said, "You're a brat. You're nothing but a rich, spoiled brat. You don't even deserve this car." My friend told me then and there that if I didn't do something about it, he was going to tell the principal on Monday morning. I was terrified. I thought I would be blamed for this. I was afraid my parents would think it was all my fault. All weekend I was terrified. Finally, Monday morning came and I was shaking in my boots. On the loudspeaker, the principal was announcing the day's events. He said that the substitute teacher would not be back. He had suffered a heart attack in church on Sunday and died right there on the spot.
The teacher who tossed a girl out a window. A history teacher in China named Li Hongyi was accused of killing one of his students. The victim was an 11-year-old girl named Zhang Yaoyi. The teacher flew into a rage and slammed her face into her desk. Then he stomped on her head, kicked her, punched her and beat her with a metal bar until she was unconscious. The teacher calmly told his class that he was going to take the young girl to the school infirmary. Then, inexplicably, he lifted her limp and motionless body off the floor, and as the other students watched in horror, he tossed her out the window. The classroom was on the 4th floor, and the girl fell to her death, landing on the pavement below. Her stunned classmates ran out of the room screaming and crying, and classes were suspended. The teacher was arrested and he was found to be mentally ill. For this reason, he escaped the death penalty and was put in a mental asylum.
The teacher who acted strange. When I was 8 years old, we had a substitute teacher. As the day wore on, her behavior became increasingly erratic. She was getting us to draw dead people hanging from a noose. She would put her hands around the necks of some kids and start talking about Jesus. We all started to get really scared, so a group of us said we needed to use the toilet. and managed to sneak out and tell the headmaster. He came into the classroom a short while later. When he saw the drawings of dead people, he tried to get her out of the classroom, but she refused to leave. He ended up having to grab her under the arms and drag her kicking and screaming out of the room. For the next 2 hours, we all just sat there quietly in disbelief. A few days later, all of our parents were called into the school for a meeting, and it was explained that the teacher had suffered a mental breakdown.
The teachers who played a scary prank on their students. A group of teachers in Tennessee took a class of 76th grade students to a state park on a field trip. The teachers decided to play a prank on the kids, telling them that a mad gunman was on the loose. The students flew into a panic and lay on the floor or hid under tables, crying and praying for their lives as a teacher, dressed in a hooded sweatshirt, went around pretending to be the gunman, shaking doorknobs and knocking on windows to scare the kids. The students were eventually told it was a prank, but their parents weren't amused. The teachers apologized and claimed they had done it to teach the kids how to react if there was a real crazed gunman on the loose,